This is Jason Wisdom of Death Therapy, and you're listening to Discography Discussion.
Hi, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, bro. Yeah!
Yeah!
I'm Papa Rambaritas from the band Ghost. You see, I have these female orgasmic enhancers that we sell that feature the logo from the band Ghost on them. And you see, if you want to be a real fan of Ghost, you must buy these.
And if you called in the Doomhammer, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I'm going to take a breath and do that again. And if you called in the Doomhammer, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan.
Yo.
That is Geoff. That is the Doomhammer.
What up, yo?
Buddy is in house, and we are talking about living sacrifice tonight.
Living sacrifice.
Oh my God!
It seems like every holiday I show up. What's up with that?
I know, right? It's really
you'd almost
weird.
think you'd have family in town or something. It's really weird.
It's like I'm the holiday guest.
Maybe
or
we
something
should
like
tone
that.
down the kidnapping. Well, Joe's...
Kidnapping.
Jeff's
Don't say anything about kidnapping.
Jeff's been really sensitive about kidnapping lately because of the times that Josh has shown up.
Yeah.
It's been awkward.
That's because his trunk is really nice.
I may have put a GPS tracker on you and sent coordinates a couple of times. I'm sorry about that.
Josh
Fuck
was like,
you, dude.
Josh was like, hey, buddy, can you send me those coordinates because I need to know where Jeff is right now? And Buddy's like, I don't really care because he's sending me money.
That's
so
right.
that was that.
So I just, beep, beep, boop, 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 boop.
You're doing all kinds of fancy shit to my phone. Is that what's happening?
Absolutely. So tonight we've decided that we are going to talk about the fantastic band Living Sacrifice.
Living Sacrifice.
Honestly, to me, one of the most underrated bands in metal history. Because, oh my God, guys, it's a Christian metal band.
How are they underrated when they're considered by many to be the definitive band?
In the Christian scene. I think they remain relatively unknown in the mainstream or non-Christian scene or whatever you call that. Succulent.
Succulent?
I don't do succulent. That's
Hey,
topical
we just had
because Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Your turkey's so succulent.
We're talking about Christian metal on Discography Discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I had my turkey this year
As
on
per
the smoker.
usual.
So who here deep fried?
No, mine was on the smoker. It was fantastic.
I oven.
It was
Traditional
it was-
oven, but covered in bacon.
Yeah, I oven
In bacon?
cooked.
Yeah,
Oh, hell
boy.
yeah. Everything's
turkey.
better with bacon.
Even Living Sacrifice?
Oh, man.
Dude, everything's better
I imagine
with
if
bacon.
I was listening to Living Sacrifice and there was bacon, I'd
be
fine.
fucking eating some
It'd
bacon,
be
man.
fine.
I mean, the bacon would probably be black.
It would
you
be
know,
fine.
Like, it'd be...
That's extra crispy, so
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Exactly.
Buddy's always
I
been
don't-
into extra crispy bacon.
Yeah, I don't like the wimpy bacon.
Yeah, floppy bacon is stupid.
So on this
That's like
episode,
And we went too far.
on this episode of the Discography Discussion,
Oh, that's from South
we
Park.
will be discussing the band Living Sacrifice, their career from their first album to their last, or their most recent, rather. They're still around. And at the very end, we have a special treat for you guys. We actually have an interview between ourselves and the vocalist of Death Therapy and bassist of Death Therapy, Jason Wisdom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How'd we pull that off?
I don't know. We're
I asked
lucky.
him,
Asked nicely?
I asked politely, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did it.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked out Death Therapy, if you're into industrial metal, you need to check it out because it's really, really good.
It is
if
definitely
you-
worth your time.
And if you don't like industrial metal...
You should still check
then
it
you
out
should
because it's
still
that
check
good.
it out because it is pretty great. And he has a prior band to that, Becoming The Archetype, which is more like metalcore. Probably what I'd put that in the context of, and it's also really great as well.
And you
Yes,
should
it
keep
is.
tuning into
If
Discography
you're
Discussion
into-
because it's going to be coming up real soon.
Yeah,
Yes, it will be.
if you're into metal, then you'll like Becoming the Archetype. So there you go. But yeah, we'll have that interview with Jason later on in the episode, and but we decided we're gonna sit down and we're gonna have ourselves a wonderful post-Thanksgiving discussion on a band that I would consider to be a metal feast. Living Sacrifice.
Well, before we get into that, I'm going to take some time to say thank you to everyone for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. We are on TuneIn Radio. So if you have an Amazon Echo product, you can say to it, Alexa, play the latest episode of Discography Discussion, and she will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening. And Dan is going to tell you all about 5-star reviews.
So 5-star reviews. We love 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion. It is literally one of our favorite things. However, if you are not impressed or you feel like we could do better, let us know. Give us whatever review you think we deserve. But the positive side to 5-star reviews is that it allows us to come up in search results. So if you type something like Metal Podcast, Discography Discussion is more likely to come up with the more 5-star reviews that it has. So keep that in mind when reviewing.
I usually give you guys a 1-star.
You only give us a 1-star on the ones
Get out of
that
my
you're
house.
on the ones that you're not on. Is that
That's
how
right.
it works?
Yeah,
you're
when I'm
on
not
it, and
on.
all of a sudden, magically, it's a 5-star review.
and then when I'm not
So
on
that's
the next
how it
week.
works.
Yeah, exactly.
Buddy's
All
trying
right,
to
so if
build
there's
hype.
any other assholes out there that want to be on the podcast, apparently all you have to do is give us a 5-star review and you magically appear.
Oh, no. You need to give us a $100 Patreon pledge.
Okay.
Let me try that again. You need to give us a $100 Patreon pledge, and then you can co-host an episode of Discography Discussion. Dan gets to pick the band.
Which I've not done, by the way. I've just known these buttheads for like 20 years.
It's going to be Ganglia.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm down
Every
for that, man. Dude,
Jeff was impressed.
I actually... I liked being tortured, so...
Who likes this?
It says a lot about your personal
He's
life.
into that sort of thing. So anyway, Living Sacrifice, guys. Let's start off. Let's talk about our personal history with the band. I'm going to go ahead and put Buddy on the spot. When was the first time you heard Living Sacrifice, Buddy?
Okay, so I'm pretty positive that the first time we heard it, I don't remember who had the sampler. It was a solid state sampler. I believe it was Dan. He's pointing at himself like a big dork. We took a listen to it, and we saw that the song Flatline was on there. And so we listened to it, and it just blew us out of the water. We were like, this is so amazing, we got to go find this album. And so we found out it was off of their album, Hammering Process. That's right. And so we went to the record store, and it was like $14.99, and we each had $7 or something like that between us. So we co-bought the album, and then...
I kept it.
Yeah, you kept it, and then I took
That
a
sounds
burnt
like
copy.
typical Dan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, because he contributed the extra cents to get it there, so he technically owned more of it. So
I was
that's
like,
how
I
I
guess I'll take a
rationalized
second
it.
mortgage out on my house, I guess.
It sounds like Bart and Milhouse and Martin all over again.
Absolutely.
And that record still remains my favorite. You know, holds true to the first one is your favorite probably, but
Which
I don't know.
record store is this again?
Oh, it's gone now.
CD Warehouse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
man,
might have moved, but yeah.
Yeah, they were good.
There's still.
bought,
I think there's still one in South County.
We bought Project 86's Truthless Heroes from there, too.
Yep.
Yep.
And Buddy is still spinning that.
Yep.
Oh, I
Buddy
am.
does
That's
still
still-
spin it every now and again. Yep.
Yeah, Truthless Heroes is probably still one of my favorites. That and Hammering Process. I'm still listening to those
Ooh,
to
absolutely.
this day. I love those
I
albums.
think Buddy and I might get along on this.
Yeah, well,
This
we're gonna
podcast.
have to go back in time a little bit, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately.
Leave me with that.
I'm going to go to Dan's cassette collection on this one and say 1991.
Living Sacrifice, self-titled Living Sacrifice.
Slayer
sounds all right.
called. You're doing a good job. Keep
Do
it up,
you,
guys.
do you have anything to say, Jeff?
Not quite yet, but
Okay.
it's tolerable. Musically, sonically, it's good. Vocally, no.
Really, on the self-titled?
It's okay. It's not good.
Do you think the DJ doesn't sound as good?
I think he sounds way better than, the next record, but we
Yeah,
haven't gotten to that
I mean,
yet.
Well, I didn't
I
say
think
he
this
sounded
sounds like straight Slayer.
well. Vocals from Slayer, I view as just adequate. So
Wow.
Well, the definition
How
of
did you get on
adequate
this
actually
show?
means to, wholly
Apparently, I'm the-
fulfill obligation.
He showed up
just
with
adequate.
beer. That's what happened.
Well, okay, so It's no secret that the first Living Sacrifice album, self-titled, sounds a lot like Slayer. Probably the band's biggest influence.
Yeah.
So
and I will still say to this day that the weakest link on every Slayer song, period, is vocals.
you think so?
Yep.
I think they're very adequate for the type of music.
See, you used my word adequate.
Yeah.
It's not phenomenal. It's not
Kinda
great.
it's kind of like when I called Dimebag Darrell competent.
Now
I'm not-
you're going to get yourself
kinda
in
like
trouble
that.
again.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be controversial just to be a dick. I'm just saying what I truly feel. You were having fun with that. I honestly
I think
don't care for the vocals.
I think DJ sounds good on this record.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't sound bad.
As far as matching up to the sound of music that they were trying to make. So
Right.
the first Living Sacrifice
and
album,
maybe that's my problem is that style just doesn't do it for me.
possible.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily agreeing with you, Jeff, but I mean, Slayer is never really, a big thing for me either.
Yeah, Slayer,
But-
Anthrax, those two just didn't. They didn't light my pilot
Okay,
light.
It doesn't
okay.
pain me to listen to it, though.
Slayer and Anthrax are nothing alike.
Well, I'm just talking about like the.
Thrash.
I'm pretty sure Slayer doesn't have a song called I'm the Man.
I hope not.
No.
And the question is, if they
That'd be
did, would they get
plagiarism.
away with it?
Absolutely
it is
not.
fucking Slayer. Maybe.
So the first Living Sacrifice album, 1991. This is a Slayer esque type of record, and I really enjoy it. I think the solos are good, but one of the things that's the most notable about it is the speed, the heaviness. There's an actual bottom end on this, even on the cassette, and I really enjoy it because of the melodic guitar work by one Mr. Jason Truby.
Yeah, Truby's awesome.
Where have I,
mean,
heard
I-
that name before?
I wonder where.
Just don't think about it. Anyway, so Truby makes it awesome. There's a song, and shit, I can't remember for the life of me.
Yeah, it's because it's really hard to find their early stuff. Their first three albums,
I believe
you're gonna be
it's-
looking.
No, I believe it's between Second Death and Obstruction, where if you actually have the tape, those songs are actually mixed together into one song. And there's this really awesome, like, slow melodic interlude between those two songs. And I think it's really cool, and I think it's better than what Slayer was putting out at the time.
Interesting. I mean, at the time,
91?
Yeah, 91. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
I mean, I'm not saying it's better than Rain and Blood, but what I am saying is that it's definitely a more, I don't know, I feel like the band is heavier, crunchier than Slayer, and their Cat Strangler solos are on point.
That's something that early Living Sacrifice did a lot of, almost too much. But yeah, they grabbed the Cat Strangler and just, shrieked it out.
Absolutely. And I definitely think that the first album is definitely Slayer-esque and could be accused of being the Christian Slayer.
Like, remember when they used to have those lists where, be like, if you like this band, then you should listen to this band.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you have algorithms that do that for you.
So,
That's true.
And in the case of Pandora, not very well.
so the
Oh, that's why there's
downside,
Spotify.
the downside to this for me is that as good as of a record as this is, one thing that really bothers me is how all the lyrics rhyme. I don't know if you guys picked up on that.
Yeah, and I'm actually that bothers me almost nil because I don't pay attention to the
But
lyrics.
metal lyrics aren't supposed to rhyme.
That's okay. You know what?
It's
If,
just weird to me.
it was their first album. I'll
But
cut 'em
that's
a break.
like when you do like rhyming
but the
lyrics,
next
that
two.
means you really had to sit down and think of, okay, here's what I wanted to say, but
That's why I
this
give 'em a
doesn't
break on
rhyme.
this one.
So now I need to think of something else here.
Well, I feel
I have
like
to make it rhyme.
I feel like the lyrics
Dime?
are. I feel like the lyrics are straight
Dime
up.
bag?
I feel like the lyrics here are straight up like biblical, and they rhyme, and they're like perfect in stanzas, and it means that he's a really good writer.
So that means does he do everything in iambic pentameter?
I don't know what you just said.
Man, I used to remember what that meant, and I've totally forgotten.
All right.
Okay, we can beat the dead
That's
horse
10.
that is the self-titled Living Sacrifice, or we can move on to non-existent, which I know
no.
Geoff does not want to do.
We're not
Well-
moving on to anything because it's non-existent. It's just nah. The vocals are so bad on this album that I can't focus on anything else. Musically, I mean it's good. I mean, because they didn't put anything out that was trash. But oh my god, worst vocals in the history of this podcast,
You think so, really?
and it's not even close.
I was with you until you said this podcast, but I'm having difficulty proving you wrong.
It's because you can't. It's that bad. It's horrible.
It starts off so good, and then something happens when the vocals
Right, I
kick
think
in.
Emerge was actually done by the band Circle of Dust, who's an awesome industrial
Wow.
band who we may or may not be talking about next month.
Nudge, nudge, grin, grin, wink,
Yeah.
wink, say no more.
Bum, 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 bum.
So yeah, non-existent for me is amazing musically.
I mean, I'm listening to what we got in our ears because it's been so long since I've heard this. I heard a track when we were coming down for the for the recording, and just hearing how this intro opens, it's so atmospheric, and then it just ruins it as soon as those
I was
vocals
not the
come in.
first person to say atmospheric.
You are now entering Jeffrey's atmosphere.
Oh, no. This is a nightmare. There's no atmosphere going on here.
This
Oh,
is
this
what
record
hell
has
sounds
tons
like
of-
for Geoff.
This record has tons of atmosphere.
I'm just saying it's my nightmare because the vocals are so bad in my
I mean,
opinion.
are you superficial enough that if you don't like extreme metal vocals that you can't appreciate the atmosphere presented on a
It's
record?
distracting. It's so distracting that I cannot appreciate everything else that's actually good because there's a lot good going on. It's that bad, in my opinion.
There was a part down here where when we were driving down, DJ had stopped singing, and they broke into this melodic interlude, and you could have swapped CDs with a later Living Sacrifice album, and you would have not known the difference. It was that
Oh, yeah.
the band is in there. They're just being covered up at the moment.
Yeah, I not disagreeing.
Yeah.
So there's a band that came out around the same time in Florida called Obituary.
Yeah.
Had a very similar vocal style,
Yeah.
except that it was good.
Right.
I mean,
And this was not. But see, I don't want to just talk about. So I don't want to just talk about the vocals non-existent. There was problems with this record. The first thing was that they were recorded by a guy that didn't know what the hell he was doing. And the band has been very vocal about that. So, like, if you listen to the singing on non-existent, if you can call it that, you will hear a lot of, like, vocals layered on top of vocals. And whenever I hear a single vocal line screamed, or whatever the hell you call what he's doing,
It's the Jim Carrey thing from our Arsenio Hall show.
yeah,
That's
it
what
sounds
it
it sounds like somebody that's making fun of death metal vocals,
is. It does.
but
And that's why I don't like it.
it's rough. I mean, you can't understand anything he's saying. And for some people that's fine.
And I'm actually one of those people normally. I
But-
don't necessarily care because I'm not
But
paying attention to the lyrics anyway.
Well, I will tell you the lyrics all rhyme. There's that. So, look out for that. But
gross.
this record
Wrong.
is
I listened to enough R&B as a teenager that rhyming does not bother me.
But I think this record sounds kind of weird, and it does seem pretty apparent that the person that mixed it or produced it doesn't really understand how heavy music is supposed to sound. So there's a lot of weirdness there.
And it's really they don't understand how the vocals should sound because I don't really
dude,
have a
why
complaint
is it all about the vocals with you?
on this album. It is. But yes, this album, it's absolutely 110% about the vocals because it's that glaringly off as compared to the rest of the music.
It is extremely distracting from what would otherwise be good heavy music.
Yeah.
For the vocals to be that bad, I'm reminded of a band called Amortium.
Dude, Amortium had way better vocals than this.
Do you mean Imodium AD?
They had better vocals, but the vocals were so significantly different sounding from the rest of the record that it was distracting.
Yeah, I agree. But then again, you could take like synth pop music and throw some screaming over it, and you got what In Flames?
I was going to say Under Oath, but okay.
I was going to say Asking Alexandria.
Right. I mean, Non-Existent is just kind of a weird album in Living Sacrifice's discography because they started as a thrash band and moved into more of this death metal down-tuned sound.
Which is awesome.
And I think most of the band was on board for that transition. And I just think that the singer, DJ, was just very kind of... He was trying to do something different than the rest of the songs that they had, which were like just thrash metal. He was trying to do something unique and original, and I think he heard Obituary, and he just did his best impression.
Well, I don't give him any grief about trying something different. I mean, I've said that more than on one occasion. You have to try.
Well, but I mean, how
you can't you can't just do the same thing over and over again. But he tried and it failed.
But I mean, how do you record something like this and then you go back and listen to the master?
And thinks it sounds good?
Yeah, like the only thing I can think of is that there's something that is lost in the translation from the masters down to the CD and tapes. Did we lose something in that, or did the mixing screw it up? What happened here that you could let that out the door?
No, dude, the vocals were just bad. And I think it got to a certain point where people were just like, well, okay.
This is what we got.
Yeah. It
sounded like it came out somebody's ass.
Right, yeah. So if the singer, just was like, this is what I have done. This is my thing. Deal with it.
It was like they did it in one night because, they were like, guys, I got this idea. Let's put a box of X-Lax in DJ's drink.
This was...
And we'll just put a mic in the bathroom and record that.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes that works because that was... that's how Weird Al made his first album.
I think he tried his best, and that was it, and
it sounded like shit.
Yeah.
It sounds like what I smell.
Like something came out of Dan's ass.
It just sounds bad, but the thing is that I think the music on this is completely redeemable. I would
like to hear the music without the vocals.
Yeah, you've got a lot of fast tempo songs with really cool melodic breaks. And that's all
which is
Jason
exactly
Truby,
what I like.
Man. Like, that guy was a genius of melody. He was great. Like, all the melodic shit that you like on Reborn, that was all Truby, dude.
Yeah, I mean, there was a dude we knew in high school that he had bought these first 3 Living Sacrifice albums, and Non-Existent was like his favorite, and we never understood why it was his favorite. But when you listen to it, all the music, you can clearly see why he loved it. It's just, if you got to be able to make it past those vocals to be able to get to that.
You guys have any standout tracks on Non-Existent?
Absolutely not.
I like Enthroned.
You notice how he just went right past? He knew exactly we wouldn't.
I like that song, and I also like Void Expression. Those are my 2 favorites.
Yeah, I've not listened to this enough because I can't get past those vocals.
You know what my favorite is?
The next record?
Haven of Blasphemy?
No, I was going to say when it ends. So
The Sound of Silence.
It's only 40 minutes.
All right, so I like minute 41.
All right, well, I'm going to take a piss, and then we're going to come back and talk about Inhabit.
I think it's time to talk about Inhabit. What about you, Dan?
I do.
This is better.
Oh, this is way better.
It's not even close. It's like night and day.
I mean, I almost feel like he's just talking, and then they just pitch shifted his voice down a little bit.
Which is kind of cool sounding.
It actually sounds like that.
But this is a 187% improvement over
it's
Non-Existent.
It's weird. It's the sound.
Why 187? Was that like...
well, they killed the last record.
Or they killed it on this record. Oh.
Well, I just don't know what's wrong with a standard guttural death metal Cookie Monster growl.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Like, how is that so hard?
Well, I can't do it.
But it is, apparently. For DJ.
Yeah.
Even though he fucking does it on this record a bunch of times.
We've been doing it for, how many years now?
DJ sounds a lot better on this. And it's weird, too, because I've seen live videos of DJ, and he sounds different than he sounds on the records, and he sounds really good. So it's really weird. It's like the many faces of DJ. Like, you know, like, what is this guy going to do next? I don't know what he's going to do next.
Well,
Do you
Geoff
guys know what he's
mentioned
gonna do next?
Arsenio Hall and Jim Carrey earlier. This sounds like what I think Jim Carrey would have sounded like if he was the lead singer of a death metal band.
Maybe. Here's the thing, though. I really like Inhabit, and I take it very seriously as a death metal album.
Absolutely.
It is one of the best. It is heavy, technical, melodic, and doesn't, you know, waste my time.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it because I can much more easily listen to, you know, these tough guyish type vocals. You know, it's not that far that far removed from like tough guy hardcore or something like that. It's a lot easier to listen to and get into for me.
This sounds like the last of the Slayer-influenced Living Sacrifice. It was tuned down. The Sepultura was starting to sneak its way in. Stay tuned for Reborn, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I thought Reborn is really whenever I got the Sepultura influences.
I don't hear
absolutely.
a Sepultura influence,
Until
Joe.
the
I just hear, you know,
Just the down-tuned
early
sludge.
to mid '90s death metal. I hear Obituary in this. I hear
Absolutely.
a little bit of like Entombed, especially with the melodic sections. This record is extremely melodic and it's super technical, and it's like really hard for normal people to play. and I mean the Cat Stranglers abound on this record. There are so many thrash metal, you know, solos. But at the same time, you've got Jason Truby's super melodic sensibility going on. So you have songs, like at the very end, there's a song called Departure. And it's fucking haunting, dude. Like, this record is one of the best death metal records I've ever heard. And I don't want to understate that. You know, like, yeah, the vocals aren't as good as, like, something like Gorguts or something like that, but, like, I really like them.
When do we get to talk about Gorguts?
We'll talk about Gorguts sometime. But, but yeah, like, I mean, I really love this record, and I'm not too hung up about the vocals because, like, there's a certain sense of, like, dude, you're into extreme metal. How much of a bitch are you going to be about the vocals? You know,
is that a shot at me?
And I think this sounds, a lot better and a lot more palatable, I guess, if you're that kind of person where you just can't handle anything that's different than what you normally listen to.
Oh no, that's definitely not a shot at me because I like going totally weird.
What was on Non-Existent was just not. There's something different about that one. You just can't.
It was a swing and a miss.
Yeah,
it
you
was.
just can't do that.
You know, and that's
it's
not too bad.
listenable.
Two out of the first three albums we all in this room like, so I think we're fine with
But guys,
that.
I mean, like, holy shit, the drums on Inhabit.
Dude, this is brutal, man.
This is
great.
really heavy for '94.
This is
And coming from
napalm
a-
death territory
And coming
of
from
heavy.
a Christian band of no less, you know,
Yeah.
like this was really good death metal, and you know, I think it was really interesting the direction that they took after this, and you know, this was the end of what you would call the first era of Living Sacrifice, the first three albums.
Yeah, because this was DJ's last album as being the singer.
Yes.
Yep,
And
it was.
Well, it was his last album, period. He
Yeah.
hasn't been on a
Right.
single Living Sacrifice
Yeah.
album since then.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, he focused on his ministry after this. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened exactly. There's a really good interview with DJ on As the Story Grows with Travis.
Oh shit! I didn't realize Travis interviewed him.
He
Nice.
interviewed DJ.
I'm gonna have
and
to
they
go
talk
look
about
at that episode.
They talk about all that stuff, so it's a good listen for sure.
Awesome.
So moving into the second era of Living Sacrifice,
1997.
yeah. So there was like a 3-year gap here, Joe,
Just about.
Yeah.
and this was their debut on Solid
Dan
State.
does math,
This was their debut on Solid State Records.
and it's
This is a whole nother beast, man.
Yeah, it
this
is.
is not death metal. So the biggest change, obviously, is the DJ's gone. He's been replaced by a bass player. And then Bruce Fitzhugh, guitarist of Living Sacrifice, stepped up to the vocal role of the band.
Man, we were glad he did because that dude's got
crazy
some
vocals.
beastly vocal pipes on him.
Yeah, he does.
He does. He definitely screams. It's more of a hardcore scream on Reborn. Not as much of the death metal growl, the grit, which is weird because I wonder, like, when they were first writing this, if they were playing songs, like if they were playing shows live, was like Bruce singing over the old Living Sacrifice stuff? I don't know the answer to that, and if we ever get Bruce on the show, we will definitely ask that question.
Yeah, I'd like to know where he was. He was hiding for the first 3 albums.
He's a beast.
He's unstoppable.
Absolutely.
Well, when you start a band,
Absolutely.
typically a metal band, you pick a role and you fill the other roles. Nobody sets out to be the guitarist and lead singer of a metal band.
Absolutely.
It doesn't happen by design. It happens by necessity. See Metallica, James Hetfield.
Right, and the understanding that I had was that they just didn't want to go outside of the band
To find a replacement.
singer, because the singer is a really...
I'm very thankful that
Yeah.
they didn't go
yeah,
outside.
because he's a very iconic...
Yeah.
It's a very iconic role in a band to be the lead singer, and Bruce Fitzhugh definitely, really fit that bill. And I have mad respect for anybody that sings and plays guitar, especially with how complicated some of this Living Sacrifice stuff actually is.
It's friggin' hard. I mean, I remember when we were in high school, was in like a drama class or something, and we had to do a faceted thing where you were doing something with, your vocals, and then you were also doing something with your hands at the same time. And so I chose to try to mimic a guitar thing, and that's hard to make it look like you're actually playing, much less actually playing, and then trying to do something, with your voice.
It is not easy. It is a level of muscle memory that can only be rehearsed.
Yeah, as I say, I remember when I played classical music, so you guys can already give me shit.
You could have said I played classical music and sang opera.
There's violins in friggin' X-Toll, so it's okay.
I played a lot of violin and viola especially, and we would, me and the other person that was in first chair, because there was 2 first chairs, we got really good at being able to talk in class while playing, and I actually started making that a habit whenever I started then playing bass, so I could sing and play bass. And it's like Joe said, it takes a ton of practice. So you have to be dedicated. So this dude is unbelievable. His vocals are insane, and then you figure out how amazing the music is with it. This album was like eye-opening for me. It's not my favorite, but it is damn near the top.
This is a hard one for me because I like later Living Sacrifice stuff.
Yeah.
But this record is it's so energetic because it's got that thrash metal influence.
Yeah,
they kind of went back to that, and it really hits. And there are similarities to Sepultura's Chaos AD on this record, as well as the next record, which we'll get into. And I mean, just the percussion is so much more because I feel like on the first 3 Living Sacrifice albums, Lance was a really good drummer, but he kind of was just keeping the beat. He'd be like, all right, I'm going to play death metal drums on this song. I'm going to play thrash metal drums on this song. This record, the percussion is its own living entity.
Yeah, it's like, hey, look at me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tom going on, and stuff.
Yeah, especially the next one's got a ton of tom.
A lot of interesting cymbals.
Yeah.
He really gets to experiment on this record, and I think it's because, like Dan says, energy, but that doesn't necessarily mean speed, because they also, start introducing breakdowns and, doing like some start-stop rhythm, kind of stuff, and just, totally change up exactly, how they sounded from the past 3.
Yeah, it was definitely metalcore. That was the metalcore for that year, 97, 98. That was...
I mean, how much metalcore was even really out at that time?
Not a whole lot. I mean, you had shit like Earth Crisis and like Shai Hulud and Converge and stuff at that time, but This was whenever it was all really being interesting. You know, this is like, you could say metalcore back then, and it may mean like literally what it is. A mixture of heavy metal music, or in this case, thrash metal, and hardcore music.
Yeah.
You know, and what was interesting about this is that, like, you know, you had this energy of metal, this speed, this technicality of metal, but you had the hardcore passion of hardcore music, you know, and Bruce's vocal styles definitely borrowed very heavily from hardcore at the time, although I would say in a lot of cases actually being more extreme.
My notes on this album are, this is the band that I recognize when I think Living Sacrifice.
Absolutely. This was their, in a lot of ways, to a lot of people, this is their actual debut.
So this is a trivia question for the listener. Buddy, I'm throwing this at you.
Yeah.
Is Rocky Gray in the band yet?
Not
Yeah,
yet.
not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
What album does Rocky Gray show up in?
Believe that is The Hammering Process.
Okay. Now, when did Soul Embraced release their first record?
Oh, shoot.
That might be a Dan question.
Oh, hang on.
1999.
Yeah, because that was, shoot, I'm picturing the cover.
For the Incomplete.
Yeah.
You might want to look that
Well,
up,
that
Joe.
was
I'm
like
not
in-
sure on 99.
That sounds about right to me. The reason I bring it up is this is the year where a lot of the big name metalcore bands, I will name Zao as the obvious example, they talk about their influences, and a lot of them name Living Sacrifice as an example. Living Sacrifice is a band that influenced all of the major bands that I think of when I think of metalcore. And it even went as far as members of the metalcore community, because Rocky Gray does come to mind. Jason Truby comes to mind. They either came to Living Sacrifice later or they came back.
All right, so Reborn was, I mean, so when kids were hearing this, like Solid State kids, because at this point they had like what? They had like Strong Arm and Overcome and Unashamed and bands like that. This blew their fucking minds.
Yeah. Because
This-
Dan Wayne hadn't showed up yet.
Not quite yet. This was before Blood and Fire.
Yeah. That was 98.
But this was insane heavy for that scene. It was hardcore, it was metal, it was everything that you wanted it to be, and it was completely modern at the time. And shit, man, I mean, you know, 10 years later, it still sounds modern to me.
Yeah. You could still pop
It's
this in.
not 10
and-
years, is it? It's 20
20
years.
years, man.
Gosh.
God, I'm old.
Holy cow.
But I mean, I think this stands up still to modern metalcore.
Oh, yeah, this
without
is
without an
fantastic.
issue.
Oh, I mean, the breakdowns are sick on this album, you know?
Dude, that song Liar at the end, where he's all like, I've seen the devil and I've chained him. I cut him to pieces. And at the end of it, he's like, Lucifer is no more. Like, I mean, that's
so we like Liar. So what else do we like on here? Like
Reject.
Yeah, I was gonna say Reject is my favorite.
Yeah, Reject.
I really like Truth Solution, Reborn Empowered, Something More. And then I also really like Presence of God, which is the instrumental.
Okay, so you have named over half of the record.
album.
It's a good record, man.
So, I'm
I
gonna
like
say-
Sellout a lot, too.
Sellout's good too with
Yeah.
that melodic intro.
Yeah, there's nothing-
I just love the chorus, too.
There's
how he
nothing
just-
bad on this. I think that's really what it's coming down to, since we keep naming song after song.
This record's
Yeah.
solid gold.
Yeah, it really is.
It's aggressive.
It should have been fucking solid platinum. I
yeah,
mean,
dude, it rips.
it's criminal how underrated and underlistened.
Well, it's a Christian band. That's
yeah.
why.
Yeah,
100%. I always thought
Unfortunately,
the
I mean-
Living Sacrifice could hold their own completely against Sepultura
there's no-
and
there is no-
Soulfly and
there-
bands like that.
there is no thinking. They absolutely can.
Yeah.
I mean, if you brought in a metalhead and played this shit for them, they go, "Wow,
Yep.
that's that's really good."
Absolutely.
And then you could after factor say, "Hey, you know, they're a Christian band," and I hate how much stigma there is with Christian bands. If it's good music, it's good music. Period. I don't care what else you have to say. So yeah, if you're gonna shit on this band because they're Christian, fuck you.
Sounds like the horn we've been tooting for over 15 years.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of where we've been coming from all this time.
Well, guys,
I've just joined the bandwagon.
I just don't know how I'm going to top Reborn.
I know.
I mean,
Oh,
how
yeah.
could we possibly top an album that's solid gold?
You go to the hammering process.
The hammering process.
I could go to the hammering process,
Yeah, you could.
or
You better go to the hammering process.
I could go to the hammering process, which I just did.
All right. Dude.
2000. What a
Hey,
good year
do you like-
for some and a bad year for others, depending on your musical taste.
Do you like Chaos AD by Sepultura?
I love Chaos AD by
maybe?
Sepultura.
This record has a lot in common with that record, but not in a bad way.
No, all the right reasons.
Yeah. Because first of all,
Percussion is the big reason on why I love this album, actually.
band had a hired separate percussionist on this.
Yes, they did.
It shows too
Yeah.
because there's so much drum work on this album,
Yeah.
and it really gives an extra layer.
And
to
Lance
just
isn't
everything.
half-assing it here either. I
No.
mean, he's doing as good of a job, if not better of a job than he did on Reborn, with an additional vocalist on top, or I'm sorry, an additional percussionist on top. And that just, I mean, this record is dissonant. It's heavy. And again, I always kind of go back and forth on whether or not I think it's heavier than Reborn. Because like songs like Liar on Reborn are a lot heavier than maybe the stuff that you have on the hammering process. But from a percussive beat you over the head kind of way perspective, this album is so devastatingly heavy.
Yeah, there's something about it's the rhythm that gets your blood pumping in this one. You know, because you feel those drums. You know, if you put this on a good sound system with some subwoofers, like those hit you in the face hard.
Yeah, and it's for me. It's like the tom work that I really
Yeah,
that really does it. So it's not even the the crazy stuff that's in the lower register and lower frequencies. That I like the. I've always been a big Sepultura fan, so the whole tribal aspect of percussion is a huge thing for me. I love that kind of feel, and they're borrowing a little bit of that on this album, and it's just enough to give that feel to it. And man, that just gets my blood going, man.
So this is the year 2000.
Yep.
Living Sacrifice has a hired percussionist.
Yes, they do.
Who do you think of when you think of the phrase hired percussionist? I think of Slipknot.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, on a scale of 1 to Slipknot, where is Living Sacrifice at this time?
I would say probably 1 point behind Slipknot.
Okay.
do
So it's
you
an
think,
interesting
Geoff?
place to be.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
I mean, granted,
I don't think it's quite that apparent.
Slipknot had a guy dressed like a clown beating a trash can with a baseball bat.
That was
Right.
his job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't think this is nearly as apparent as what Slipknot was doing.
This is not the same kind of feel.
Yeah, I think this is more of a blended aspect.
Yeah.
It's more of a Sepultura, more of a
Yes.
Soulfly kind of sound.
Yeah, and that's why I like it.
And that's our shit. If you've listened to the Sepultura episode,
Yeah.
that's
Jeff,
what we like.
Jeff ran 15 miles in 5 seconds to tell you all about it.
Oh my god,
So-
dude, I was so excited on
And
that one.
I kind of feel like all of these songs have this almost refuse, resist. It's almost like they listened to that song and they were like, how can we incorporate this feeling into every song on this album? And it's met with moderate amounts of success. I mean, obviously, Bruce actually sounds much more, Bruce is very, more brutal, more growly on this record than because on Reborn, he just screamed.
yeah.
That was it.
He's got more of a body.
He's
to
got
this
a
more now.
growl
Yeah.
to his voice on this record.
Yeah, and I
And-
like the fact that they do mix in a little bit of clean vocals in
Yes.
with that.
Yeah.
I like that dichotomy. I mean,
Yeah.
I've made that apparently
Well, and I
clear,
also-
abundantly clear. I mean,
I also
over and over again.
enjoy that, like on songs like "Burn the End," where some of the heavy they bring in the heavy guitars, but in a melodic way as well, and they pursue that melody with the vocals or with just the dissonance of Bruce screaming over parts of that melody, and it's just very easy to listen to. I know. Fun fact: I loved this album so much when it came out, and me and Dan bought it. That my screen name online for a long time was like Altered Life 03 or whatever variation of numbers. Because Altered Life was probably one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah, so this was heavy. This was percussive. This was everything you liked about Reborn, but kind of refined in a way. Like kind of more locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were kind of trying to follow an exact sound. And this record was really, really, I think in a lot of ways was their biggest record.
It feels thought out and less of a collection of songs.
Yes.
Like, it feels like they sat down and they said what would follow well after this song and tried to write something to work with that. And
yet again,
created
another
this
reason
whole
why I
album.
like it. That is something that I specifically look for in albums. So almost like there's a theme. That's super important to me. That's something that personally, it's one of my tastes that I like.
Yeah.
As much as I love Reborn, and I do, this is the record that I think of when I think of Living Sacrifice. Most people, I think, will think of the next record.
Before we get to the next one,
But we're not going to the next one just yet.
yeah, I was gonna say, do we have some standout tracks? I think we've mentioned a little bit of it.
Flatline.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Burn the
You
End,
always take mine like
Blood
right
Work.
off the get go.
Well, you know,
Altered
Jeff, the
Life.
risk is always that you're going to take two.
I know. Flat,
Altered
flat
Life
See,
is
let's see.
amazing.
Yeah, Altered Life, Hand of the Dead,
Here, dude, just start reading the entire
Tiny
playlist of
End.
the record.
Conditional.
Yeah, Flatline
Yeah.
is by far my favorite.
I could just list the entire album. Like, I can't... There's not a song I skip on here. Conditional is awesome, though. That song
Yeah, the
rules.
closer.
Yeah, and that's the other good hallmark of a good album by a great band is you don't feel the need to skip.
Yeah. I think if anything, there's maybe Not My Own and Local Vengeance Killing are probably my least favorite on the album.
But they're
Oh,
still
really?
great.
Local Vengeance Killing?
I don't know. I just
That
never...
song's badass, so
I know.
you're wrong.
I just never latched onto that one. I don't know. But
So much percussion coming at you on that song.
All right, so we can
can
go
we
on
just
to-
stop the podcast and listen to this album?
Yeah, no
Like,
kidding.
I'm just sitting here listening to what's coming in my ears, and I just want to keep listening.
All right, so any more thoughts on this record, or can we move on to 2002?
It was great. 2002, Conceived in Fire.
This is the record that everybody thinks of when you say, do you like Living Sacrifice? At least 90% of the people that I ask that question
Well,
to.
yeah, because
see, we're just
3
weird.
seconds in, unleashed. I mean,
This is when Bruce Fitzhugh turns into a monster.
Monster, yeah.
He unleashes the beast here. It's incredible, the amount of just pure, brutality that he has coming through his vocals. It really enhances, the heaviness of the music and everything else around it. It's got a whole different layer to it.
This is Groove-tastic. This is the record everyone thinks of. I already said that, so, Zayo fans especially, this is your gospel. This is Living Sacrifice. Oh, hello, Mr. Gray.
well, he was on the hammering process also.
Oh, did I forget to mention that?
He did.
Yes, you did.
Well, he's
You know
still,
that
he's still
melodic
here.
clean singing that was on the hammering process?
That was
They let him do one
Arthur
little...
Green and Rocky Gray.
Yeah, and on this album, there's one little tidbit of clean singing, and then Bruce Fitzhugh runs him over and is like, "No, this is my show."
Yeah, that's funny. That's on the song. It's on the song. Is it The Poisoning?
Yeah, it's The Poisoning.
Yeah, and he's like, crawling on hands and knees. You show me beautiful things, living life in a box to it. And then Bruce just comes, my name across your chest means nothing to me. And it's like, you never hear any singing anymore after that on
Yeah.
that record.
It's like he ate him or something.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got. That's awesome. And what I love about this record is that it really, there's tons of callbacks. So this record in a lot of ways can be described very much as a percussive metalcore album, very similar to what we'd experienced on the hammering process.
Yeah, but there's something different here.
Yeah, obviously the songwriting is better.
Yeah.
But so on the surface, it seems like it's just another the hammering process part 2. But there's lots of throwbacks to their old thrash roots here. a little bit of their death metal roots. And the songs just hit a lot harder for some reason than they did previously.
Yeah. I mean, there's whole tracks that they don't even play like fast. Like The Poisoning is not a fast song, but it is heavy as balls.
Yeah, it's
Like-
heavy.
Yeah, there's a lot of brutal. I'm more of a fan of just that slow it down and just purposely beat the shit out of you kind of sound instead of just, speed bagging you.
Yeah, like
And
I
there's
think
a lot of that.
I mean, Joe, I think hit the nail on the head with groove, but I mean, I don't know, because groove I also picture as being something a little faster than what they're doing here. But
No, when I think of groove, I think of obviously the most obvious, I guess, is probably Pantera, but like Gojira is what I think of first when I think of.
okay,
Well, yeah, I hear a little bit of like the Gojira Meshuggah kind of sound on this.
Yeah.
Especially if you listen to the song Ignite. That song is extremely influenced. I don't know if influenced by or influencing
is more like it.
Yeah, because this was 2002, so
Yeah,
and
and that's
you
actually
didn't necessarily have that. I mean,
That was my
Meshuggah
favorite-
probably sounded like this still, but
that's actually my favorite song on this album. So
Ignite is it's actually my favorite as well. Believe it or not.
yes, I got
It's,
it out first for a change.
It's got that machine gun technicality that's not too fast. But my God, it's percussive. You can't drop a pin between the riffs, and then it actually has a really emotional melodic. I wouldn't even know if you could call a song like this a chorus, like if it has a chorus or not, but it seems that way. The guitar solo was cutting and biting and freezing cold over everything else, and this record, this song just kills it, and it defines everything about the record just in that one song.
This record has the Martyr on it.
Oh, that was my next thing that I was gonna say was I'm looking, I've got my phone in my hand, and I'm like, the Martyr is also a standout track.
left with your phone in your hand, outstretched. Yeah, it's awesome.
That song is amazing, and I think 3x3 We Carried Your Body is one of my favorites because it talks about suicide and how terrible it is. And
Well, I almost think death through addiction, right?
yeah, something like that.
It's like you died on the floor of a bathroom,
Yeah.
broken and bleeding, with your insides destroyed. And I think it's
Yeah.
more about drug addiction.
Well, I think it hit home
You
for
know.
us because I know back. I don't even think it was. It was roughly around that time a friend of ours had committed suicide.
Yes.
and that I was pissed off
It
about
was
it.
several
and,
years later, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, I just remember listening to this song a lot because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how time blurs everything because I constantly listen to this album still, and even when this came out, then it was years later that happened to our friend, but it still is a landmark album in my life that I keep listening to it, and it still has moments for me that aren't later in life.
Final thoughts on Conceived in Fire, or can we move on?
Oh God, I don't ever want to move on from this.
Man, this is what stinks because when this album came out, it was a year or two later that we finally realized this was going to be the last album for Living Sacrifice. This was it. They were done.
Bruce was apparently going to leave the band, and then Corey Putman was supposed to take over. Which, if you guys don't know, he goes by Corey Brandon now, but he is the lead singer of the band. Norma Jean was going to be the singer of Living Sacrifice.
Should have been a very different sound.
I think it would have been interesting.
Would have been interesting,
It's definitely
'cause
there's
I like
definitely
Norma
a huge
Jean.
what if, but I don't know about you guys, and I know a lot of people actually feel this way about DJ and Living Sacrifice, but I'm not interested in hearing Living Sacrifice songs without Bruce singing them.
Yes,
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree.
Most people don't say that about the second vocalist, but in this case, I'm not interested in hearing the band without Bruce on it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear some tracks from the first three with Bruce doing them. That would be interesting to me.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing that
That's what
Norma
YouTube
Jean
is for.
fans have been dealing with for years.
That's disrespectful.
Everybody keeps talking about the first record that sounds nothing like anything they did since. And it's
we can think of
Corey Brandon's been here the longest, guys. Come on.
I was gonna say we can think of a second vocalist. Another one that we prefer the second vocalist on. I know Dan and I do.
In Flames.
Technically.
Technically.
I don't know, man. If
was
somebody
gonna
announced
say
that
they
Michael Stani from Dark Tranquility was going to start singing
Oh, yeah,
on the
if he came
In Flames
back.
records, I'd be all like, hell yeah, dude.
But yeah.
Anders who? Yeah.
Well, because at some point, Dark Tranquility and In Flames just flipped in like preference.
Yeah, I was gonna say the contortionist.
The contortionist, the second vocalist. I don't know if I agree with you on that.
I do.
I like their second vocalist, but I really like that first guy.
Yeah,
a
I mean,
lot.
that's like 1A and 1B. Who was it that we were talking on a previous episode where we were talking about it? We kept calling him the second vocalist, and we were like, he's actually done more. Fuck, I can't think of it.
Sepultura, Derek Green.
Oh, no, because we were talking about where we liked the second vocalist
okay.
better, but we kept saying he's the second vocalist, and then we realized, hey, he'd actually been there longer than the original vocalist.
Wasn't Norman Jean, was it?
No.
Nah, who knows?
Oh, man, I can't think of it. Oh, well.
What's interesting is that we accepted this breakup, and then they go on to put out a in memoriam album, just greatest hits of all of their career.
But with 3 new songs.
Yeah, but with 3 new songs. It's like, oh, okay, well, you're going to break up, but you can't stay out of the studio.
Right.
And they were good.
They were good.
Tracks.
They were definitely, I'd say the 3 songs that were on the in memoriam album were definitely more of like a hammering process style sound.
Yeah, like almost like B-sides
and
from
that's
that.
not a bad thing.
Not at all. I mean, these were great songs. They were really melodic, too. I remember thinking like they were... I'm not sure what they were going for because it's like they were broke up as a band, so it's not like they were trying to get a commercial success.
Yeah, and that came out 3 years after they broke up, at least according to my, my music app here. And then we started hearing rumblings another 3 years later.
Well, it all started
together.
when Bruce Fitzhugh did a guest vocal on the Demon Hunter album, Storm the Gates of Hell.
Oh, yeah.
On the song 16. You're like listening to this Demon Hunter album, and then all of a sudden Bruce Fitzhugh's on there screaming.
And just takes over
and
the
he
track.
has this undeniable sound to his voice, this quality to his voice. And I remember getting really excited about that, and then like they started launching all these weird teaser websites, and it was all Demon Hunter that was doing it. Like they were like, hey, go to this website and check this thing out. And like it gave you all these hints about the band members' names, and then before you knew it, you had like you could come up with like you do these puzzles on this website, and you'd come up with like Bruce and Rocky and Lance and Arthur and all this stuff, and that was our hint that Living Sacrifice was going to be a thing again. And so shortly after that, I don't remember the exact year, but they put out an EP called Death Machine. And that was either in 09 or 010.
08.
Or 010. Yeah, I guess 2010.
It's
still right.
2008, at least according to what I got here.
Death Machine, yeah. So they had a
it's 2 songs, Death Machine and The Battle.
And they were fucking awesome.
Yeah. And it's all we had for I think another year, 2 years. We had those
so it was
2
like,
songs for another 2 years.
It was like drip feed Living Sacrifice stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, we go from 2002 when they last put out a full record to then 3 songs over another 8 years, and then finally in 2010 they come out with the full on LP, The Infinite Order.
Yes. So what did you think of this one, Geoff?
I think the anticipation did us in.
I think I have to agree because I heard, the Death Machine and The Battle were so amazing and sounded exactly what I wanted to hear.
Right.
And then something happened in those 2 years, and it just didn't. The Infinite Order just didn't sound like those songs.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just I think it's a casualty of the hype machine for people who were looking forward for them getting back together. We had built it up so much, and when we got this, I just don't think it lives up to expectations. I'm not saying it's bad, because it's not.
Yeah, it's very good.
It is very good, but we were expecting, the hammering process, mind-blowing kind of thing all over again, and I don't think we got it.
I think this is just more straight metal.
Well, yeah,
it's not exactly metalcore exactly, but it's I mean, it is that a little bit. It's the older style that they established on Conceived in Fire and the hammering process, and so I think in a lot of ways it still very much sounds like that band.
Yeah, but I think maybe now that I'm listening to some of this in my ears, like back to back from all these albums, Joe, am I wrong in that? Is there not a second percussionist here, like doing some of that tom work and stuff?
I don't know if they had a second percussionist, but there is an additional drum part. Yes.
Okay, because it feels lessened here than it did on Hammering Process and Conceived in Fire.
It's less of a focal point, in other words.
Yeah,
Knowing that the new Soul Embrace to come out in 2008, which was, I think, Dead Alive, I kind of feel like this record got the second half of Rocky Gray's good guitar ideas. That's just how I feel when I listen to it.
I think this record was just trying to be more straight ahead metal.
Yeah.
It's not as melodic. It's not as commercial sounding. They don't have as much to prove.
There's even a couple of Cat Stranglers on here.
Yeah, there's some Cat Stranglers on here, and I think it's.
I like that terminology.
It's one of those things where
it's going to be a shirt in 2018.
It's one of those things where I think this record was really good, and I share a similar opinion to the next record, Ghost Thief, too, in that I think that they're everything that you want them to be. I think if you're a Living Sacrifice fan and you listen to the Infinite Order, you're not going to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
No, it's not
You're
that.
going to enjoy it, because I remember hearing Overkill Exposure and thinking, like, holy shit, they're back. The world is a more complete place now that Living Sacrifice is back, and they're doing their thing. And they sound unique in that, like, in a lot of ways, they almost sound like a relic from another time. Because they're not the most brutal band out there, but they once were.
Yeah.
And but they still kind of maintain that same sort of sound. But like, I don't really have an issue with it because I feel like the guitar playing is on point, the vocals are on point, everything's on point, but I just don't necessarily feel like the songs are as compelling as they used to be.
Is this like the definition of playing it safe for the fans? In that, all right, if we go out there and we do something totally different, we're going to lose everybody. But if we go put out something that they recognize, we're going to keep everybody despite not getting any new people.
I guess I'm that weirdo, though. I'd rather have had them just go completely off the deep end and give us something we weren't expecting.
Well, what about songs like Love Forgives? I mean, that's a very melodic Living Sacrifice
song.
I'm
not saying that I don't know what it was. It's just not.
Does it not, maybe it doesn't feel like a progression from the other albums.
Maybe
and
that's what it is.
Feed songs.
I was expecting, after them being absent for so long and coming back, I just wanted to have that same feeling that I did the first, not first, but the albums 4, 5, and 6, with Bruce's voice just like being a revelation, and especially on the Hammering Process, with the second percussionist, I just wanted it to bowl me over like that did. It didn't have to sound the same, but I wanted to evoke the same emotion of, oh my God, this is something that I gotta listen to, and I just didn't quite get that from the Infinite Order. It just didn't bowl me over like the first go around. That's all.
I don't want to pick on the vocals, but I think one of the differences I felt that I noticed was that his vocals didn't seem as harsh as they did like on Conceived in Fire. There was like a saw blade almost on his Conceived in Fire vocals, and these feel almost a little more processed. They're a little smoother. If you
which might be completely out of their control, because
yeah,
I've seen
it could
these
just
songs.
be time has
I've seen these
them.
songs live, and I guarantee you, I literally am crushed into the fucking ground.
This is
when I hear them.
2010,
You know
if
what
you
I mean?
remember.
Like, yeah.
This is 2010, if you remember, which we've talked about the mid to late 2000s being when digital recording was in its
heyday,
in its later part of its infancy. There was a time, because we've had digital recording since the 80s, but it never sounded well in its infancy. And the home recording revolution, which I think started in the early 2000s, the sound quality was starting to be there, but it wasn't fully there. The main standout examples for me would be The Funeral of God by Zayo. You can hear how isolated the guitar sound is. It's not fake. It's not digital. It's just not mixed the same way because the engineers and the mixers were still learning how to mix fully independent digital rigs. And this was the year where we really started getting good at it.
All right, I'll take that.
Everybody ready for Ghost Thief?
Yes.
Kind of.
I'm gonna guess that I'm in the minority. This is actually one of my favorite albums.
Really?
I don't know if I can call him a favorite, but I like it a lot. I liked it.
I like it more than the Infinite Order. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So I'm not alone in that. I figured that there's gonna be more people that were into the Infinite Order.
This felt like more. This felt more like what I was expecting to hear on the Infinite Order.
Yeah. It's almost like the Infinite Order was a misstep, and then this came out.
Well, how'd you like having Ryan Clark from Demon Hunter on the first song? Like, that dude makes everything better, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was talking to a guy at work who's a big Demon Hunter fan, and I'm like, well, then you should check these guys out. And he's like, dude, they're fucking brutal. And I'm like, yeah, and they're a Christian band.
What?
Yeah. But because
Wait,
he's
so
like,
is Demon Hunter.
yeah, I know.
What?
I know. He totally messed him up. Because he's like total hardcore liberal atheist guy. And I'm like, yeah, these are a couple Christian bands. They're badass, aren't they? And he's like, they're Christian? I'm like, yeah, dude.
Like Demon Hunter,
they
like
suck.
yeah, he's changed his tune. He's gone and thrown all of his records out.
Well, that was a funny thing because he was like, but they're
Gonna
on.
go listen to God Dethroned.
Does this coworker also believe in a flat world?
No, but he was like, but they're on the because he found out about Demon Hunter through the Killing Floor 2 soundtrack.
Dude, Living Sacrifices on that too. It's
I
all
know.
Christian bands on that.
I know.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well,
Yep.
that's what I was telling him, and I'm like, dude,
I need to go check
I
out what
looked
all
it
those
up,
bands
and
are.
I was like, dude, those are it's all Christian music, man. He's like, but it's awesome, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I
the
know,
guy like
exactly.
totally slipped that in there. Like,
I know, it's so great.
And if you pay $10 to Discography Discussion on Patreon, you can play The Killing Floor 2 with myself, Dan, Geoff, and Buddy.
yeah.
And we will win.
At least with
I'm
me,
looking
yes.
this up now. Holy crap! Impending Doom, Living Sacrifice, Demon Hunter. I've not heard of Synthetic. Rocky Gray. What is he? He's got his own solo
solo stuff.
project.
Rocky
What?
Gray is everywhere.
Bruce Fitzhugh and Jeremiah Scott. Fit for a King. Oh, holy crap! Well, this Synthetic band is on there a lot.
It's basically a solid state records sampler, man.
Yeah.
Except for Impending Doom.
Buddy's going to go and buy The Killing Floor 2.
I'm adding this to my library now.
But
so I
it's
can
like, this looks like something that I would listen to.
yeah, I'm going to listen to this.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
So let's get back to Ghost Thief. So Ghost Thief was a kind of more of a return to form for the band, you know.
It really was.
It's more technical. I think it pushes the line a little bit more. I have to admit, though, that the songs don't stick with me, though.
Yeah, that's something that has bothered me with the past two records is that I just don't remember much of it. I remember liking it, but
Yeah, it's
I
like
don't
any-
remember much of them.
It's like any techie kind of album in the sense that, like, when I'm listening to it, I have a smile on my face the whole time. And then whenever I'm done listening to it, not a lot of it sticks with me.
I don't know. Screw Tape sticks with me, man. That's
That's
Screw
one
Tape's
song out of
amazing.
10.
That's because there's tape in it. So it sticks to you.
you're so cheesy.
And that's the one with Ryan Clark on it, so...
Yeah,
you
so
know.
that might have been the other reason too. But I always pay attention to stuff that has guest vocalists and stuff like that because I'm always kind of curious just to see what the hypothetical of having another singer for the rest of the albums, and it makes you kind of think about what would it be like if Ryan did more vocals on, or what would it be like if his vocals were on this song and stuff like that. I always like kind of the what ifs.
Well, I mean, if you want to hear guest vocal Lollapalooza, then listen to Summer of Darkness by Demon Hunter. Like, every other song has a guest vocalist.
Right, you got everybody on there.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just I guess that's part of the reason why I guess Screw Tape. I guess I'm saying it's sticking with me is because I liked that the thought process of going through and the what ifs. I
Sure.
always have fun with that. I guess that's kind of the reason why. Like, I know they're a rock band, but I've always liked all the different variations of Stone Temple Pilots. Just because they've had so many different vocalists and they've had so many offshoots of other stuff that they've done. like talk show and stuff like that. So I always love that aspect of guest vocalists. It always is just something fun for me. But this is a great album. Like we've all said, this is like a coming back to Jesus moment, I guess.
Nice. Were they away from Jesus at some point? I wasn't really paying attention, but yeah, no, this record's really good. I think it was a solid release, but I mean, that was like what, Joe, 2013?
2015.
Oh shit! It hasn't been that long ago. Was it really? No,
2013.
Oh, I'm blind. Can't read.
Yeah, it's got to be
2013?
13. Because it seems like that came out a while back, and I need more.
Yeah, I mean that's almost 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and
they're still active. They still play.
Tour.
You know what's funny is I was watching some videos a while back where they played some songs off the first album, and they actually had DJ come out on stage and sing them.
No kidding.
And he sounded really fucking good.
Which is how you get in.
And he's also like this is going to be uncomfortable, but he's like an extremely handsome man. Like, I mean, I was like,
no. Here's
before that I was like, oh, DJ, whatever, and I watched it. I was like, DJ.
no. Here's the important question: is he?
I think so. we're not including this in the podcast. It doesn't matter, but.
Anything creepy you say against Geoff?
Anything creepy you say about gets edited out, just so you know.
Oh, it does. Bummer.
There's no reason to even be saying it.
So, final thoughts on Living Sacrifice. Buddy, I'm starting with you.
So, this band is definitely a landmark band. If you like metal of any kind, definitely check them out. I would say,
so if I'm into like polka metal...
Yeah, even if you like polka metal, because maybe it'll get you off of that and onto this.
Okay.
So it'd be better.
I guess I'll let my polka metal friends know.
I mean, I would say even listen to Non-Existent. As much as we ripped on it, there's still something to pull out of it. I mean, even just to experience it. Are you playing it right now?
Oh no, I'm just playing my pick of the week for
some soul embraced.
Okay, yeah, and a bunch of the members of the bands have started other bands from just on side projects, and they're all really awesome to listen to as well. This band is just definitely a landmark artist that needs to be heard and needs to be part of your catalog.
Geoff, what about you?
Yeah, this is a criminally underrated band that I think, like we've said before, gets stuck with the quote-unquote Christian stigma. I don't care who you are, you need to listen to these guys. They are fan-freaking-tastic. The most important thing is that it's good music. The fact that it also happens to have a good message that goes with it instead of a bunch of drivel, which we do get, unfortunately, an awful lot in metal music, is just, it's icing on the top. So everybody should be listening to these guys. They're technically proficient. Bruce, brutal vocals. I mean, it's everything that we ask for in metal music. And they've been doing it a lot longer than a lot of other bands out there have. So I would highly recommend them. Everybody should check them out.
Dan?
Well, we've talked a lot about the vocals and vocalists and things like that, but I think one thing that has been criminally undermentioned in this discussion has been the drumming.
Oh, yes.
The drumming is just out of this world fantastic. And the guitar playing, especially like we kind of breezed through the first 3 albums, but Jason Truby's like melodic guitar playing and interludes and stuff, and his solos and stuff are so good, like so good. And for me, like I can listen to something like in Non-Existent and still enjoy it because of how good his performance is on it. And that's one of my favorite things about Non-Existent and Habit as death metal records is that they are very melodic and they actually can invoke an emotional feeling in me. And as far as their later stuff goes, I mean, that stuff is effortless. I mean, they kill it. Yeah, especially on Reborn and Hammering Process. And this band has never put out a record that I've been, besides Non-Existent, that I've been like, this is glaringly bad. They haven't really misstepped. And really, most of the band didn't misstep on Non-Existent. It's just one guy.
Right. And we don't even know if it's just that one guy, if it was the direction that he was given.
Well, listen to the interview with Bruce Fitzhugh from Living Sacrifice on As the Story Grows. And he gives a little bit of illumination on that.
Man, we're giving Travis a couple plugs.
Yeah. We love Travis. He always needs plugs. He just ran a 5K.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just reading that on Facebook that he ran a 5K. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, I've been working really hard on taking a Facebook unplug because I got a new phone and I haven't put it on my new phone yet.
Well, you need to because I'm doing all the social media stuff myself, man.
I know I need to get back on. But there's just been so much.
Tired of being the face of the podcast.
I'm sorry. But it's so beautiful.
Ugly.
All right, so
I was going to say a few times, I think everything great about metalcore finds its way back to Living Sacrifice. I'm sure you could name a band that was local to a specific region that everybody loves, that for most people would be obscure, but for the majority of the people that listen to metalcore, your favorite band is influenced by Living Sacrifice. For that reason, you should be listening to Living Sacrifice. And you should be enjoying Living Sacrifice. And yes, you still need to listen to Non-Existent because you got to know where it came from. Because there was a point in time where it was basically napalm death. Only on a scale of 1 to napalm death, it was like a 3.785.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So you know who else likes Living Sacrifice?
Who likes Living Sacrifice?
Jason Wisdom.
Jason Wisdom of Death Therapy?
He's of Death Therapy. He used to be in Becoming the Archetype.
Where have I heard about Death Therapy before, buddy? Where have I heard about
Right.
Death
oh,
Therapy?
it might have been
Well,
here.
we got
Couple
to
of
talk to
episodes
him.
ago.
We got to talk to him last week for a little while about Living Sacrifice. So we're going to play that for you guys, and then we will come back on and do our ending.
Jason is going to tell us all about Death Therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Well, the question is, what is there to say about Death Therapy? What is it? What would be interesting to know? It's a band. There are 2 people in the band, not 3, not 1. There's no guitars in Death Therapy. It's a bass and drum band, like industrial kind of groovy band. And yeah. I don't know. What else should I say about it?
You can say it's amazing. Otherwise, I'm going to say it's amazing.
Well,
Yeah, we
I
are.
think it'd be a little better if you said it than me.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're big fans. We actually we did like a double header a little while ago this year, where we because typically we talk about a band's discography from beginning to end.
Well, that wouldn't take very long with us.
What do we do? I was like, what do we do with a band that only has 1 album?
We talk about 2 bands that have one album.
So we do like a double header creature feature kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we did that with what did we do, Joe? It was Atom Ship and Death
Death
Therapy.
Therapy.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't know how you decided to pick me for that, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you talked about Death Therapy.
No, we're big fans. I was a big BTA fan. You probably don't remember, but I guess it was like right before Terminate Damnation came out. I was doing this. I guess it was like a Christian metal magazine, and I did like an email interview with you about the upcoming release of Terminate Damnation.
Oh, I remember all the email interviews that I did from 2004.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
They're all very vivid.
Enlightening.
Yeah.
Photographic
So,
memory.
So,
What was the email address?
Oh, it was
2004 email addresses are usually pretty funny.
Don't worry about the
my
beep,
gosh.
Dan.
I think it was
It was Titanius, I think.
no. It was Cries from My Past, because I was like really
Yeah,
into
there you
Under
go.
Oath before they were like what they are now, and
See, how did I know that it was going to be some ridiculous, like, early 2000s email address?
oh yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
I
undoubtedly.
mean, it was 2004. I mean, be
It's
honest.
so funny too because like we didn't talk about stuff like that at all. It was always like extreme metal, and for some reason nobody ever called me out on that email address.
Well, consider yourself called out
Oh
13 years later.
man. So
Doesn't say, what do we think of the eponymous debut of
Yes.
Living Sacrifice?
yeah, so Living Sacrifice is a Christian, they're a Christian metal band, and they are kind of in my opinion, at least in the opinion of a few people, they are the band.
They are the holy grail
in
of
that-
Christian metal bands to a lot of people.
Yeah, And I always saw them, I guess, as a like the band that does Christian metal, but you can like take it seriously. And they had a very aggressive, extreme approach, especially early on, starting off sounding kind of in like a Slayer-ish thrash metal style. And I think what it was for me was just the extremity of the music and the aggressiveness of the vocals, even on the early records, which we'll get into. Jeff and I have a little bit of a disagreement on that. And
Yes.
you know, I think they had cool lyrics, they had a cool image, and you know, they were the band.
Yeah, I can remember like the very first time I ever was part of a band practice. We were listening to Reborn from Living Sacrifice, and I can remember at the time thinking, "Wow, this is the heaviest thing I've ever heard." And then we tried to learn to play it, so it goes way back for me.
So is Reborn your favorite Living Sacrifice record, or which one would that be?
I would say it's probably my favorite just because of the nostalgia that comes along with. I mean, it came out in, I guess, 97, and that's about when we started trying to make music. So they were kind of the band that pushed me over the edge into, I guess, what we're calling extreme metal. So before that, I hadn't really listened to much that had a lot of growling or screaming kind of things. And I can even remember hearing, I think I heard a song from Extol around the same time, and Extol now is one of my favorite bands of all time, but I can remember at the time thinking that they were too extreme, you know. And
Right.
it's just funny to think of that now and look back and go, yeah, because that was more of a black metal kind of vocal style. And I could handle Living Sacrifice, but I couldn't handle Extol back then. So yeah, I mean, I go very far back with Living Sacrifice.
Yeah, for me, I kind of had the same thing. Actually, one of the first extreme metal bands that I heard was Extol, and they were, I think it was their album Burial. I don't think I got that the day it came out, but I had found it years later in a bargain bin. It was definitely one of the best bargains I had come across. But yeah, I agree. What I think about Living Sacrifice, what was more appealing to like a new fan of extreme metal was kind of the more, I guess you could call it hardcore approach to the vocals. Made it a little bit more accessible. It wasn't. It's not a huge stretch to jump from something like, you know, like Pantera or something, or Sepultura
Right.
into something like Living Sacrifice.
Especially right around the Reborn and the hammering process, because that was when the kind of Sepultura sneak happened. At least listening to the albums sequentially, that's when I started to notice, hey, there's aspects here that you don't hear in a lot of heavy bands or heavy thrash bands that could basically be described as, well, there's the Sepultura influence.
Right.
That might be the reason why I like the hammering process so much. I'm a big
Yeah,
Sepultura fan.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the one good thing, there's always the people always want to put like the strike against, you know, a band that's quote unquote Christian. And at the end of the day, Living Sacrifice, I think what makes them stand the test of time is, you know, they're a great band with a good message, and they can hold their own against their secular contemporaries, which I think that's part of what makes it where if you're a metal guy and you throw this on for one of your buddies who's never heard them before, they can completely appreciate who they are. I mean, they do such a great job. They're great musicians, so it's so easy to listen to. Minus, I have to admit, the vocals on the first 3 albums are a little rough for me, especially non-existent.
Why?
Man,
Touchy subject.
yeah, it is. I was giving Dan some grief earlier this week because I was just like, oh man, I tried so many times to get through non-existent, and I'm like, my interest in this is non-existent. It's not because of the music. It just the vocal styling just wasn't my cup of tea on that particular record. The first one is fine because, you know, it's just it's pretty straight ahead, He's just pretty much yelling the whole time, which is cool with me. But the second album, there was an interview that Jim Carrey did with Arsenio Hall back in the day where he's making fun, or he's not really making fun of, but he's like putting on this metal voice, and I'm like, that's what I felt like he was watching whenever he decided this was the vocal style that he wanted.
I wouldn't go that far, Geoff.
Oh, that's what it felt like to me. I mean, I know I'm taking it a little far. I get it, but
Non-existent is a little painful to get through, especially if what you started with was Living Sacrifice, which I didn't. I heard the self-titled years later. But from Non-existent to Inhabit, yeah, you can have the vocals back on Non-existent.
Jason, did you go back and find the first 3 Living Sacrifice albums, or did they register on your radar or at all?
Yeah, because I had some friends that were really into them, and to me, I guess the vocals didn't bother me that much. I didn't like the fact that I felt like those first 3 records were very, I don't know, I felt like they were sort of obviously the Christian alternative to something, and I felt like Reborn was sort of their own unique take on early metalcore, whatever you want to call it. It was a new thing. I feel like they kind of came into their own. So for me, I like some of the old music, but it just wasn't interesting to me.
Sure, yeah. I had the same reaction at first, and I guess over time I started appreciating it a little bit more. I mean, obviously I don't really love Non-Existent that much, but I do love the music on the record. But no, I agree with you. Like, the first album is, the Christian Slayer. The second one is like the Christian Obituary, and the third one I have a little bit more time. Maybe like the Christian Morbid Angel, or something along those lines. And but yeah, it was once we got to the hammering process, I feel like they really kind of came into their own, and were really able to stand their ground with an original sound. And I mean, and Bruce just sounds so good,
Oh yeah, I agree.
yeah, he's insane on that album.
Yeah, Bruce is he's got that aggression, he's got that drive, and he's just kind of I hate to keep bringing that up, but like the whole with it being like Christian music or whatever, they were kind of the first band where it was like they weren't trying to soften it up at all, or they weren't trying to make it more packageable to mom.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that same year, I mean, you can look, and there was a lot going on, and ironically, pretty much all on Tooth and Nail Solid State. There was 1997. You had Extol's Burial record. You had Zayo's Blood and Fire record. You had trying to think if that was when. Yeah, Embodiment did their
Embrace the Eternal.
Embrace the Eternal, which is one of the best records I've ever heard, I think, still to this day. Best riffs. It's like 100 riffs per song on that record. And I think you also, at that same time, I think you had I'm trying to think if that was The Blind Side. A Thought Crushed My Mind was that year. So I guess what I'm getting at is I think that was a very pivotal year for, if you want to say, Christian music to come into its own, Christian heavy music. I think there was a lot going on there. So POD was doing stuff. I mean, yeah, Project 86 was kind of coming around. I would say that's where a lot of it started.
Yeah, it was a pretty monumental year, 2 years there, and that was, I guess that was around the time that I guess I was in high school, and I really identified with a lot of those bands. A lot of the bands that you mentioned have already been covered on the show. It's there's just stuff that's undeniable, and even though our show isn't like a Christian metal show, we still, that's what I grew up listening to. So.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally. And I mean, Zayo is still around and still is. I mean, is considered one of the most influential bands of the genre.
Absolutely.
To this day. So.
I just got their new EP in the mail.
Awesome.
And he hasn't stopped listening to it yet.
I haven't. It was actually hard. It was actually hard to switch over to Living Sacrifice because it's just Living Sacrifice hasn't put on a new record in a while, so like, and to have new Zao, it was quite the treat. So
Yeah.
But yeah, Living Sacrifice was such a big deal, I guess, around that time too, because I always feel like, and this could be just a perception from a fan, but I always felt like they kind of spearheaded the movement too. I feel like a lot of really good bands were influenced by and kind of spawned off of Living Sacrifice. I kind of consider bands like even bands like Demon Hunter, which granted they're not necessarily the same style, but kind of like when Living Sacrifice went on that hiatus and we thought that they were gone forever. I kind of feel like there were a few bands that had stepped up and kind of tried to pick up that torch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It seemed like there was a big void, when they were gone between. I think it was like 2004 to 2007 or 2008. They were gone.
It's kind of like how with metal, most people will cite Metallica as their origin. Living Sacrifice in extreme metal is the band that everybody cites as their origin. Unless you're Dan, then it's Zao, which inevitably led to Living Sacrifice. Oh, okay. I can honestly see where this came from then.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think with Living Sacrifice also, I think there was a kind of a little bit of a shift between albums, and I'm gonna kind of just talk about post Reborn. Because that seems to be where we all live.
Well, do we get to talk about Conceived in Fire then?
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
it's definitely the best produced of their records, I think.
My goodness,
that is absolutely true.
It sounds so big, when that album starts off and it's just with like Imminent War and Bruce just comes in like unleashed. It's just it definitely prepares you for what you're in for.
Yeah,
and but yeah, with Reborn. I think that they definitely kicked off the whole Christian metalcore thing. Maybe not kicked it off completely, but kind of once Living Sacrifice became popular, I think it really opened the door for a lot of other bands to come in and play that style and be as successful as you could be pre 2000.
Yeah, I agree.
So whenever we got to the hammering process. I think I definitely noticed a little bit more of a almost kind of a stretch more towards a more commercial vein. We had it was just as heavy as it's kind of hard because I go back and I listen to it and I'm always trying to decide if it's as heavy as Reborn, and I think what it really comes down to is I think on levels of heaviness I think they're really about on the same level, but I think that Reborn maybe is a little bit more
visceral,
aggressive. Yeah.
I would agree. I think Hammering Process is very heavy. Maybe the heaviest record they ever did, but it's not the most aggressive or metal record. I mean, there's riffs on Hammering Process. Sorry, that's what maybe I said the wrong one. Hammering Process is probably their heaviest record, I think. But I also think that has a lot to do with it's their grooviest record. So a lot of times, to me, heavy, like pure heavy, is rooted in the groove. So I think it's not as fast, it's not as technical, it's not as brutal as other records, but it's really, really heavy.
I think it's definitely my favorite of all the work that they've done, and I think that's possibly because I'm a big groove metal guy. It's a fantastic album. Because I'm probably out of everybody that's talking exposed the latest in to Living Sacrifice, and that's mainly because I'm big into besides the groove metal like melodic death metal and stuff like that out of Europe. So most of my music's always been over there, but whenever I was listening through the discography when we got to Hammering Process, I just kept on listening to it over and over and over again and driving everybody at work nuts because I kind of work in an open area, so everybody gets to hear everything I'm listening to. And some people are a big fan of the fact that I'm on a metal podcast and some of them aren't. But the ones that appreciated the metal were wanting to know, who was it that I was listening to, because they were into it.
Yeah. No, and I would actually say I think if you take Reborn and combine it with Hammering Process, you get Conceived in Fire pretty naturally. And I think that's, for a lot of people, that's why Conceived in Fire is their favorite record. It's not necessarily my favorite, but I think it is the culmination of their sound, I guess, is what I mean. I think they hit it really well. Hammering Process, I guess, feels experimental to me in a really, really, really good way, but it doesn't seem like they were settled yet to me in what they were going to sound like. And then with Conceived in Fire and the records after that, I feel like they were like, okay, this is what Living Sacrifice sounds like.
Yeah, I noticed on Conceived in Fire that there was, it was kind of more of a accumulation of kind of everything they'd done up to that point, because I hear the mixture of Reborn and the Hammering Process in there. But at the same time, I also hear, I hear a little bit of the thrash influence, a little bit of the death metal influence. It's all kind of there, blended up, I guess, for us. and yeah, that record definitely, that was actually the first Living Sacrifice album that I purchased. I think before that, it was just listening to MP3s and stuff, or, just like whatever, I guess whatever you could download offline, like on mp3.com or whatever the band had posted on their website, so you got bits and pieces of albums,
MySpace.
Yep, MySpace, yep. I remember trying to load MySpace on a 56K modem.
Oh my gosh.
Because my parents just hadn't updated. And yeah, it was bad. I tried streaming a song and it knocked me off the internet completely, and our phone didn't work for 2 days. It was a little much, but yeah. So I mean, Conceived in Fire was definitely awesome in the sense that if you hadn't heard Living Sacrifice before, you were literally hearing everything Living Sacrifice had to offer on that record.
Right.
And not very many bands can say that,
No, I agree with that. It was the production hit perfectly, and Bruce's vocals sounded the best they've ever sounded. Again, the production, they really only had the percussion, extra percussion for just a very short time around Hammering Process, so they kept a little bit of that in there. So it was a nice little combination, I think. So by the time they got to some of the newer records, they're not really doing much of the percussion thing anymore because they've been playing without a percussionist on stage for so long. Whereas at the time, they kind of still had a little bit of that going on,
I've noticed that the newer albums have almost a little bit more of a thrash influence to them. It's more straight ahead, kind of like what they were doing on Reborn.
Right.
And it's really interesting to hear. I mean, I'm very thankful that there are still Living Sacrifice albums coming out, because there was that 4-year period or so where it was kind of up in the air. They released a greatest, I guess not a greatest hits. I don't know if Living Sacrifice has hits, but
Reject.
Yeah. Reject, yeah, that's right, Reject. That was their biggest song.
Yeah, oh yeah. They still got to close out every show with that one.
Absolutely.
I was very fortunate to get to do that song with them live when we toured with them a few times, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is very cool. Super jealous.
Yeah. if you YouTube it, you'll find it.
Okay. So. Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out. Actually, Joe, if you can find it, we'll throw a link to it up on the show notes.
Can do.
We're done. Yep. Yeah, because that is definitely worth seeing. But yeah, I think with their newer albums too, I was really excited whenever the Infinite Order came out, because again, after Conceived in Fire, I just figured there weren't going to be any more Living Sacrifice records, and
right.
So I just kind of took my ball and went home, so to speak. And whenever they came back, I think they released a little 2-song EP called Death Machine.
Right.
And it had the song Death Machine and the Battle on it. And I remember thinking that those sounded like, to me, they sounded kind of like they might have been off the Hammering Process.
Yeah.
And then there was those 3 songs that they put on their In Memoriam album, where they'd recorded 3 new songs. And I thought all of that sounded very Hammering Process era Living Sacrifice, which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
But
no, it's got a little bit of that. It's very clearly written. A lot of it written by Rocky.
right,
You know, a little bit of Soul Embraced kind of thing.
yeah, we need to do Soul Embraced at some point.
Yeah, we're actually playing a show with Soul Embraced here in a couple weeks
Oh, that's awesome.
in Little Rock.
Little Rock,
No,
Arkansas.
Tulsa.
Oh, okay, wow. All right. Yeah, I wish we were near some of these shows.
Get to listen to some My Tourniquet.
Nobody ever hears it.
Yeah, nobody wants to come to St. Louis because their gear will get stolen.
And it's a black hole of a music scene.
Unfortunately, yeah. Unless you're like 90s new metal, that's about the only metal that really still does well in St. Louis. Unfortunately,
I don't know. I think St. Louis would like Death Therapy. That's just me.
90s new metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really 90s new metal, but you know,
Borderline at times.
if you're a fan of you know, mid to late 90s industrial music, I think you know, I think it's right up your alley, you know.
What if I'm a fan of mid to late 80s 8-bit action platformers? Then I'll definitely love Death Therapy. Gonna love that Belmont
something for
family
everyone.
curse.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, Living Sacrifice is they were that band that just kind of came out of seemingly nowhere, even though I know they had been an established thing for probably about a decade before I got into them. But you know,
Yeah,
they
they're
definitely
ancient.
yeah, but they definitely
No, they're old. You missed what I was saying.
I'm like trying to be I'm trying to be really nice. But no, they definitely like opened up the door for me, you know, to get into more extreme music. There's no way I would be into this stuff if I didn't like Living Sacrifice and Zao.
I was gonna say what I think Rocky's like only 5 years older than I am.
Yeah, Jeff's super old.
Man.
Rocky's in every band.
Yeah, Rocky
Yeah.
Rocky Gray is the guy that everybody calls first.
He's awesome.
As I say, yeah, that's a nice title to have.
Yeah, so I mean, the dude's literally all over the place, and still, as far as I know, he's still in Living Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah, his style kind of changed too a little bit over in the Living Sacrifice camp. As far as like, I kind of felt like, you know, obviously Hammering Process and even Conceived in Fire, you know, were like somewhat more melodic, and Ghost Thief and
I was waiting for you to bring
Ghost
it up.
Thief, yeah, Ghost Thief and Infinite Order, you know, were definitely more I guess thrash metal oriented, not so much.
I was a little surprised to hear the singing on Ghost Thief.
Well, I don't think that was him singing.
It wasn't, but it was a surprising thing to hear. And
because I think he sang on the Hammering Process.
Yeah, he did.
I think that was like him
and Arthur.
Him and Arthur, yeah. Dude, Arthur Green is a terrifying human being. The first time I saw him, he was like humongous. We saw Living Sacrifice in Joplin, Missouri, a few years ago. It was the Stronger Than Hell tour, and because
I'm gonna text him that right now.
I had seen the dude several times. You should text him that and then tell him to come on the show. But we texted, or no, we
didn't text him.
We didn't text him. I'm getting all confused. It's that thick burger, man. It's getting into my brain. But
wow, that man is humongous.
well, no, I don't mean like that, but I mean like just like intimidating, you know, like
Right.
You know, like he was much larger than I thought than I was expecting, and it was really. I remember me and my friend Buddy were referring to him as the Arthur Green Giant pretty much the rest of that weekend.
Okay, you're giving me so many good things to text him.
It's perfect.
I think he's still in Europe though, so he won't get this. It's like 4 a.m. there.
Wow, they're still over there.
But he is. I think he and his wife are having a little vacation.
Oh, that's cool. I have not been yet, but
So we've at least mentioned all of their albums. So what is there that we should say about the most recent of their albums, which was what, 4 years ago now?
2013.
2013, yeah.
2013.
Ghost Thief.
Yeah. What do you guys think of that one?
I like that one. I think, to be honest, I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed Infinite Order.
I like it way more than Infinite Order.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think I felt like Infinite Order was good, but for some reason it was missing something. I really don't know what it was, but I feel like Ghost Thief really brought it back for me.
So for you, Infinite Order was kind of like they were stretching and getting ready, and then
a little bit.
Yeah,
and that happens when you get old.
Yeah. I'm
you gotta
starting
stretch before you do things.
I'm
like
starting
this
to learn all
podcast.
about that. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's probably number 3 on my list.
Well, what's number 1? I mean,
The hammering process.
oh yeah, that's right. Percussionist fanboy.
Give me that conceived in fire.
But no, yeah, I really like Ghost Thief. For some reason, I guess for some reason I enjoy the melodic Living Sacrifice a little bit more, whereas Ghost Thief was a little bit more brutal. And it's not as if like I can't take brutal music, but for some reason I just think it's like,
Just admit it.
yeah, I just can't handle it.
Tell the truth, you Liberate fanboy, you.
All right, yeah, but no, I like the melody on Infinite Order. I felt like Ghost Thief was just a little bit more crunchy, and for some reason the song just didn't stick with me.
We can't be friends.
We screwed
We're so
it up.
close.
We screwed it up, guys.
Big time.
As if all my technical failures hadn't.
No, it's not my favorite record of theirs. It's probably my 4th favorite record, but I would put it before Infinite Order in my mind.
It's one of those things. Whenever I say I don't like a Living Sacrifice record as much as another one, what I really mean is like it's really, really, really good. I just don't know if it's the best for a Living Sacrifice, and there's a distinction there because
It's like
I was
having
just
to pick your
excited.
children.
Well, no, I was excited when Ghost Thief came out because it was like it just kind of came out of nowhere. There wasn't like for Infinite Order, there was like almost like 2 years of hype behind
The
it.
anticipation.
It had been a while.
Yeah,
as
they
soon
had
as you
the
knew
hiatus,
this and they knew they were coming back. That's a lot of pressure. That might have been part of the reason why it was a bit of a letdown for me. But that's not the first time that's happened with me with an artist where
Yeah, I think that's possible.
the more hype there is, the more you get excited for it. Because that's kind of how I felt. Like I'm a Star Wars nerd, so the Phantom Menace, I was so excited, so pumped up, and then it came out, and I'm like, okay, I need to watch it again because I don't think it was that good. I watched it again. I'm like, okay, I don't think it was that good. Let me watch it a third time. Yeah, it's really not that good. I mean,
Yeah,
it's still
horrible.
good because it's a Star Wars movie for me. So so I think I kind of treated it the same way. It was just like, okay, yeah, I think I was just a little too much anticipation and a little too much hype for me.
I think that's kind of natural, though. I think our expectations make a huge difference in how we approach the thing. Like that new Nickelback, which you guys all love so much.
Oh yeah, totally my favorite band.
It's sitting on
All
your shelf
time.
with all your cassettes, right, Dan?
Yeah, I do have a lot of cassettes, but actually have the first 3 Living Sacrifice albums on cassette. These guys listen on
Awesome.
YouTube, but I was listening on cassette.
I had no choice. I
I was trying to get you to leave the CDs at my house a couple weekends ago.
Yeah, I
but-
didn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't trust people with my Living Sacrifice stuff.
Oh, you should trust me.
Yeah.
Jeff, you're the least trustworthy person in this room.
Why?
Because he'll never get them back.
Oh, that's totally a swipe at me because I still have a bunch of Joe stuff that I still have to
I
repair.
also have the hammering process on vinyl, which was a pretty rare find. Actually, it was a Cornerstone Festival, and this guy's like, "You got $20?" And I was like, "I guess so." And he gave me a hammering process vinyl record signed by Bruce, and the whole thing was just kind of weird. And
Yeah, it was well worth that $20 though.
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
I've got Reborn on vinyl somewhere.
I think I have
Somewhere.
Donna Summers on vinyl, like all of her stuff.
wow, dude. He's going all Andrew Schwab. So we had Andrew Schwab on the show a couple months ago, and he was having the hardest time deciding what band to talk about, and he ended up picking the Mars Volta, which was kind of a stretch for a metal podcast, but he's like, well, it's a lot better than my original choice. His original choice was Lana Del Rey.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And I was like, when he told us that, we were like, are we being punked? Like,
You're being schwabbed.
Yeah, and we still don't know if he was being
Schwab.
serious or not. We're still like, man, he said it so deadpan and so well. We're like, okay.
Yeah, I know.
We weren't sure.
It was definitely one of our weirdest guest appearances, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm going to make this one really weird and awkward and say I probably got to go.
Oh, that's
All right.
perfectly fine.
Totally cool,
man.
dude.
Well, I know you just came back from Europe, but is there anything you want to plug or anything you want us to put a link on?
I mean, the record is actually still fairly new. It hasn't even been out a year yet. The Storm Before the Calm, and definitely need grassroots support on that because Death Therapy is a very indie sort of band in the true, like, traditional sense. Like, I'm just not trying to like say we're really, really small, but you know what I mean? It's kind of a word of mouth band.
Sure.
Very few people still know about Death Therapy, so it's kind of one of the best hidden secret of the heavy metal world right now. And then I think a lot of people that hear it, they don't know everything that's going on with it, so they come see us live and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know there were just two people," or "Oh, I didn't know you were in this band." So yeah, basically that's what I would want to plug to people is check it out if you haven't. Share it with people if you like it.
For sure. Well, I have the record. I really enjoy it, and we definitely will link all of that stuff. Put links to all the Death Therapy stuff, and we look forward to whatever we're going to get in the future.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to making a future.
All
Jason,
right.
thanks a lot, man. Thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate you taking the time out, man. I know it's hard with life happening.
Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Talk to you.
All right, so that was Jason Wisdom of Death Therapy, a band you should definitely be checking out.
That band is amazing. That man is amazing.
Yeah,
Everything is amazing.
Yeah, for the fact that two people make that much noise and it sounds that good, yeah, it's definitely worth a listen.
I would ask Buddy, the resident expert, about the makings of a Death Therapy record, but I would say he should refer you to episode 9 of Discography Discussion, where we discuss Death Therapy.
Old school.
It's amazing.
In depth
Depth therapy.
depth therapy.
I love it.
Diphtheria?
So that was Jason Wisdom. He had a lot of really good stuff to say. Mentioned Extol, which is a band that we probably need to talk about soon. But guys, Death Therapy actually has a album out called The Calm Before the Storm. You should definitely check it out, and definitely give that band a listen because they really fit in very nicely to what we're going into next week, which will be Industrial December. We're going to come back and hit you guys with a band called Cybreed.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
might be one of my favorite bands of all time.
It's the last Geoff recommendation I'm taking.
I know, and it's well worth it.
For at least
I don't
the
even
next
have to
12
do any
months.
homework. Woohoo!
Good stuff.
What is your album of the week, Dan?
Well, I've been listening to this band called Catacomb, and their album's called like The Maze of Kadath. I'm listening to it on YouTube. It's fucking awesome.
Buddy, what about you?
So I have not. I don't even know what you would call it. It's drone doom, because I've been listening to a lot of Sun O.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate though, because a lot of what I've been doing at work recently has been a lot of pair programming, doing some stuff, and so I haven't had time to actually like sit and listen to things.
Rub the butter on your arm, watch the butter melt, then lick the butter from your arm.
I will say one song that I've been listening to on repeat for whatever reason. I found this band called the Necromancers. They have an album called Servants of the Salem Girl.
Hell yeah.
Super satanic, but their song Salem Girl Part 1 is amazing.
Is it
James
as
Popper
remotely
Emeritus?
satanic as Ghost?
I don't know. I can't comment because I've never listened to Ghost.
Is it more satanic than Bloodbath? You freaking wimps.
No.
What about
I don't
Bible
know,
Black?
dude.
I'm
don't
pretty
know.
sure Bloodbath is like made out of goat men. I'm pretty sure goat men.
Did I
are
get a
the
no
only
on
members of
Bible Black?
Bloodbath.
We'll talk later.
By the way, that song, I'm not that big of a fan of the rest of the record. It's okay, but that one song though, it's amazing. I listen to it on repeat.
All right, Geoff, give me your album of the week.
Oh, La Partition by Uneven Structure. Fucking love that shit. I know Dan gives me shit. I like my technical weird ass stuff.
I liked that, but I don't know.
Mythos by Soul Embraced.
It's not album of the week material.
Well, Mythos by Soul
Both
Embraced
his
is.
album of the week material.
Yeah.
That's because it's got Rocky Gray in it.
Rocky Gray's all over. You know what else Rocky Gray is on? Project 86, Wait for the Siren, which we'll also be talking about in December.
Why is
so
it
look out
everything
for
Rocky
that.
Gray touches turns into gold?
Turns into pure gold.
Well, one of the things he touched turned into platinum, and then he got kicked out of the band, but we won't talk about that band.
The whole band got fired. He didn't get kicked out necessarily.
Well,
Amy Lee kicked herself out of the band.
I'm done. Fire me.
I'm censoring that name.
Later, bitches.
And on that note, this has been episode 39 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks.
Give me your money.
Anybody want to listen to Hammering Process right now?
Get out of my house. I think everybody should listen to the Hammering Process.
But we have to get out of your house first?
Oh, no.
Is that the deal?
No, we're going to go to Taco Bell.
Oh, okay.